Good morning, everybody. It's John Miller, founding attorney at Rock Solid Law, where we're celebrating 30 years of practice at the beaches, which is really, really exciting. This is our continuing regular Thursday morning Zoominar, I'm calling them. And in our ongoing overall health series, we have a special guest this morning, as we have had before. And I'm so delighted to have Kathleen Anderson with us. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I'm so excited you're here. And just for those of you that don't know her, she's the owner of the Anderson Agency of Northeast Florida, has over 20 years experience in the insurance industry, went to undergrad in Philadelphia and holds 2 graduate degrees, which is one more than I have. But she says none of which she's currently using. I'm going to ask a question about that in a minute, Kathleen. Fair?
Yeah, okay.
She's formerly with Allstate and recently opened an independent agency so she could offer her clients a diverse selection from top-rated products. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that because I think that's something that's really important for you guys to know about. She's working with only A-rated companies. Her office provides home, auto, umbrella, motorcycle, boat, and flood insurance, all things that protect your life and the health of your life. The agency motto is building insurance relationships one client at a time, because a lot like we do, Kathleen feels strongly that each client has their own unique need, in her case for insurance, by developing a real relationship with people, and therefore your personal needs can be best met. The office at the beaches is located in the Veranda building in Ponte Vedra Beach, and the office is managed by Carrie, and I hope I get it right, Zaran?
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. I've known her a long time, but you know, names are easy to mess up. So Carrie Zaran, who those of you that are active in beaches networking may already know. Kathleen lives in Jacksonville Beach like I do and loves working out and traveling whenever possible, which means that you are probably really excited to go somewhere sometime soon.
Got myself booked. Yes, I do.
Good.
It's been a long 18 months of not traveling.
It really, really has. I left shore for the first time for spring break, and boy, was it nice to engage in a different culture for a little while.
Good.
Kathleen, I'm gonna cut you loose in a minute, but first tell me about 2 master's degrees that you're no longer using. What were you studying back then?
Well, I studied, I was a teacher for a long time in New York before we moved to Florida. And so I have a degree, a master's degree in higher education. And then, life comes and goes and whatnot. So then I went back to grad school about 6 years ago and got a second degree in social work, thinking that's where I was going to head because I do love working with people and whatever. So P.S. I'm not in teaching and I'm not in social work. However, I talk to my staff about it sometimes. I'm like, I deal with, I use my social work skills more than anything else because dealing with clients and stuff like that, you have to really, pay attention to their needs and hear what they're saying, not just listen to what they're saying. Hear,
right.
Yes. So it's not in a typical way. It's not like I'm using my degree, but, doesn't go to waste. Let's put it that way.
Well, and absolutely with what we're doing this morning, education is so important, and learning doesn't stop when the final degree is earned, right?
No, it doesn't. No, not at all.
I really look at particularly the estate planning portion of my practice. I guess it's true in real estate too, but I'm regularly educating people. And once people are educated, they can make an informed decision. And making that informed decision is what improves the quality of our life in an ongoing manner. So I'm glad you're here this morning to educate us some about the various areas of property and casualty. Obviously, my interest in these sessions is to talk with people primarily about their estate planning, which is taking care of them during their lives and after they pass into the next world, depending on whatever their belief is. And I would have to say that the overall insurance umbrella is taking care of people during their lives, including those they love and the general population, as well as some of the products moving through all the way until they pass from this world to the next. So I do want to come back to flood insurance because of my real estate part of my practice. But how about if you just give us kind of an overall view of what the things that you work in most prominently help people to develop peace of mind?
Well, I thought about, what I was going to do and present here today. And I think, in talking about health, one of the things that to put together a package of health, in our realm of what we're talking about, you're doing, the final planning and making sure everything is in order. Everything can be boiled down to, in my opinion, like the number one thing that you hear today are people are stressed out. They're stressed, with jobs. They're stressed about the pandemic. They're stressed about kids. Stress is everywhere. And we have found that people are stressed. Insurance is stressful. Planning your estate is stressful because I've got to get everything in order. So what we like to do is try and take that stress away. And by what you just said is educating people, by informing our clients what they need, why they need it. And it isn't a cookie cutter, blanket, coverage for everybody. And we often get clients that say, well, my neighbor's got, this insurance and it's, if they're only paying this, why am I paying that? Because your neighbor lives in a different house and is a different person, so it's every single background. Your neighbor may not have had a claim. You have had claims, whatever it might be. So trying to explain that to people, is one of the major things that we do. And it's also stressful because you have to have insurance. You have to have, and some people feel like, I have to have this, but I don't use it. Well, like we said, we have health insurance, or we like to think we might have health insurance, and we never really want to have to use that, but it is there when we need to use it. It's good to have. Again, when we bring back to our clients, what it is, what is my insurance? Why do I feel like I don't know what it is? And it's because people don't understand, like I said. So what I thought I might do today is just kind of cover some basics, and, going through like what we might do with an annual review. We ask our clients to please contact us when you get your renewal. Let's just say your homeowner's renewal. That comes out, 45 days prior to the start of your homeowner's insurance. That's a great way to do a self checkup, just like you would go to the eye doctor or, get a physical, an annual physical. Let that be the reminder to people to say, let me take a look at all of this. And then you give yourself 45 days. You're not stressed about, oh my gosh, I've got to get this done tomorrow because I just found out about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just stay with that for a second. A lot of people escrow, as you know, being a real estate attorney as well. They escrow. Well, we need to do a better job of letting people know what that means. Sometimes they don't even know, A, if they escrow, or B, what that means. Do I still pay? So, sometimes we've had clients that pay their own insurance, even though the bank is paying it. Again, educating people as to what that means. It's not just at closing that their insurance is paid at that time. But moving forward. So again, going back to the annual review, take that as a cue to call and say, let's go over everything. And then we can see, just like you, John, I'm going to keep bringing it back to, because I think it really goes right hand, left hand together. Life changes. Life changes, and that, what somebody planned at 21 or 25, let's just say 25, a newly married couple, I'll use my son, for example, he's newly married, a new house, and he has no children. And he's 25, he's kind of living on a budget. That same budget isn't going to be at 35, yet he could have 2 kids, a different house. And if I know him, he'll have a boat in the backyard. So he's got to, change he's got to change his insurance. He's got to change his estate planning because he's got different responsibilities now. And if people don't come to you and let you know about those changes, they can find themselves not protected the way that they should be protected. And that is the number one thing. I know it stinks sometimes to say, oh, I've got to pay this insurance, but it's about protecting yourself, protecting your family. There's so many different ways we can go with this.
As Florida homeowners, even if you didn't have a mortgage, it seems to me it would be ridiculous not to have a homeowners or hazard policy. because we have hurricanes here. As surely as we have alligators and mosquitoes, we have hurricanes, and one will come, and a lot of us will need a roof or some other component, hopefully not, but of a house.
Yeah, yeah, you bring up a really good point, because right now, and I'm sure you've seen it in the news, the homeowners insurance industry in the state of Florida is in crisis. Carrie and I have been talking to our clients about this for quite some time now, and we kind of saw it. We got notifications from the carriers that due to litigation, and a lot of people don't know this, but you have 3 years to file a claim after a hurricane. So what happened was this past year, 2020, was the 3rd year from our last big hurricane here, our named hurricane. So we had, and again, litigation and fraud, but roofers going through a neighborhood saying, oh, you got some damage up there. Let me take a look at it. And, you can file a claim. Well, this went rampant. Again, I think pandemic wise, people thought, well, this might be a good opportunity. I don't have $10,000 to put on a new roof. Maybe I can, figure this out. Long story short, reinsurance rates went through the ceiling for these insurance companies. And who ends up paying for it? It's all, it trickles down to the consumer. So we spend probably 85% to 90% of our day talking to clients about their insurance rates and how they've doubled. And what can we do about that? So, there are things, again, going back to the checkup, when you get that rate increase, call me. There are things that we can put in place, a wind mitigation, we can change deductibles, we can reevaluate the replacement cost on your home and do that for you so you can take that stress out. So that's just, again, the homeowners industry right now.
Hey, as an attorney who started his practice and didn't like it, by the way, but defending PI cases, one of the things that's always struck me, and one of the things I think a lot of people don't know, is the liability coverage that's part of our homeowners, and the peace of mind that people should have, knowing that they are covered in case there's an injury or accident on their property. Can you cover that for just a second?
Sure. I would say, you have all the companies offer liability. 100,000 is their minimum. And then most of our clients, we suggest 300,000, and it's a very inexpensive coverage to add. I think it's like maybe $15 annually onto your homeowner's policy, depending on the company. So it's a really inexpensive coverage, and you're getting several $100,000 worth of protection. And what that coverage does is, like you just mentioned, if somebody trips and falls on a loose rock in your front yard, or a painter falls off a ladder and is injured, your homeowner's policy protects you from him suing you and taking, you would know best, the assets that you've, accumulated over time. And we live in a litigious society. And so all it takes is, I won't name the brothers, but, to get a hold of your case, and you could really find yourself in a financial pickle. So what we often do, and a lot of people, and we have to have, like you just said, homeowners insurance. As long as you have a mortgage, you have to have homeowners insurance. And then if you drive a vehicle, you have to have auto insurance. Outside of that, you don't have to have life insurance. You don't have to have an umbrella policy. And so these are the kind of addendums to what we do, because we see a need that, for example, we've got clients that have got like 3 young drivers. And again, let's just say he's an attorney like yourself. You've got 3 young drivers. And we say to these clients, everything that you own is riding around in that back seat. Because if your children have an accident and they're at fault, and God forbid, do some serious harm to somebody, they're on your policy. They're going to come to you. I mean, and I've got some friends that are experiencing this now. They did not have an umbrella policy. So we tell our clients, this umbrella policy parlays with your homeowner's liability coverage. So you have that $300,000 from your homeowners in the case of something happened at your home, and you have liability on your auto, but this umbrella covers you for exactly as it states, for liability, additional liability, excess liability in both those areas. So you are really protected. I mean, as best you can protect. I mean, we can, go down the rabbit hole of just saying how much is too much. I mean, if somebody really wants to go after you, they're going to. So
Sure. And that's where some of the more sophisticated estate planning comes in for asset
exactly.
protection purposes.
Protection, yeah. So that would protect, you would put in place, again, hand in hand, the protection that they can't go after somebody's retirement because it's put into, a trust or something of that nature.
Right. While we're out on that limb, just as a question, what percentage of your clients do you see as having even a simple will plan in place? Is that something you talk about with them?
We did more so in the past. A lot of people, and I'm sure you hear this, believe that, they've got life insurance through work. Well, that might pay your mortgage for a year.
Right.
If you're lucky. But we do see the need, and we used to be honestly, when we worked with Allstate, they really pushed it quite hard as far as making sure that we, asked people about that. When we see a need in our office now, we definitely bring it up. We do have a life insurance specialist that we can refer them to make sure that they are well-rounded. We do go back to the very beginning, inform them of what they need. As far as the further down the estate planning goes, we haven't really asked about that, John, and maybe that's something that we should start doing as well, to say, this is part of it. Don't just get a life insurance policy,
Right.
Put the whole thing together.
It may be important how those proceeds are distributed, particularly if kids are just turning 18 or even in their mid-20s.
In their mid-20s, exactly. I mean, you don't want to have, I wouldn't want to have a child that's, 25, that's, inheriting $3 million. What you do at 25, you don't do at 40, or 35. You know what I'm saying? You have a better mindset as to what,
I have an example of making better decisions as I got older.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, before I forget to ask about it, I do want to, that's an excellent discussion, and thank you, but I do want to talk about flood a little bit, because I get questions being in the real estate area about flood insurance a lot. And I'd love to know your perspective on the need for flood. What I tell people is, you live in Florida and you don't want the wind coverage flood coverage and not have flood coverage there, but I don't know how to better articulate it to help educate people.
First of all, people don't understand what flood coverage covers. So I would think, again, going back to educating them, flood coverage, the easiest way to help people understand what is covered with flood. Flood is anything rising water. So you may not be on the ocean or near a lake or a river, but you can still have rising water. If it rains pretty hard, and anything that comes up from the ground up would be covered by a flood policy. If it comes water damage, rain down, water down, that's covered by your homeowner's insurance policy. So that's, down is your home, up is your flood. That's the easiest way to go about that. Now,
is sideways your wind?
Yeah, sideways. Well, sideways, yeah, sideways, as long as it's not standing, yeah. So, again, that prices on flood insurance are dictated by FEMA. So you can't, you can shop it, but you're not going to get a different price. You might just look like the agent that sells it to you better than the other one. That's about it. There are private flood companies. We deal mostly with, the FEMA-based companies. So the price is the same. It does cover, the maximum they cover is $250,000 for your property, $100,000 for your personal items, with the $1,200 deductible. I believe it is $1,200. So, with coming into hurricane season now, or approaching, as soon as there's a hurricane on News 4 screen, we get phone calls. I need flood insurance. I need flood insurance. But the federal law is you have to wait 30 days for a flood policy unless you're doing it at closing. So we, again, when we have clients call us and say, hey, I'm looking to buy a house, we say, get the flood policy at closing, then you don't have that 30-day wait period. Mm-hmm. And it will naturally renew. Now, if you're in a flood zone, which a lot of people say, well, I'm not in a flood zone. We're surrounded on 3 sides in Florida by water.
Right.
We're in a flood zone.
Yeah. That's the highest point. It's not much, very high.
It's no, and it's sinking every year. And Carrie and I've had this conversation, people that are in, Atlanta or, Ohio, they are landlocked and they've had disastrous floods.
Mhm.
And they didn't think they were in a flood zone either. So if you are in a flood zone, you need a flood elevation certificate, which I'm sure you know about from the closing. And then it's mandatory most of the time from the mortgages that you get the flood insurance. And
It's really important that we educate Floridians about flood insurance, because a lot of people just want to get the minimum they have to be able to buy their house.
Yeah.
And it is, I call the home purchase, the first great investment of most Americans' lives, and it needs to be protected because it can be lost both through title defects and through, subsequent events which cause damage to it. So we need to educate people that that's smart money to spend.
Yeah. Yeah. And I certainly understand when people go to closing, they've got closing costs and maybe it's their first home and they budget for certain things. And, do I really need this? Maybe I'll do it next year. And then we all know how that story goes. I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. And then 6 years have gone by and you haven't done it. And yes, maybe you didn't need it. You got lucky, but that one time that you do need it, you're going to be happy. Like I said, that you had the coverage. And overall, for someone that's not in a flood zone, it's $572, for $250,000 in coverage. Now you think about what people spend their money on annually on Starbucks coffee or other things. I mean, again, it's all priorities, but still, the likelihood, as you said, we are in Florida, we do get hurricanes, we are going to have issues. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yep. So we've got about 5 more minutes. What else would you like to educate our friends about?
Well, the one thing I would really like to address is, it goes into the auto insurance, is uninsured motorist coverage. And maybe you address this with your clients too, because uninsured motorist coverage, a lot of people don't understand. They say, hey, I have full coverage on my car. You can have full coverage and have the minimum coverage to drive legally on the road. So we often get people that say, oh, I've got full coverage. And I'm thinking, no, you do, but you can open up the window and throw money out and be just as covered, because you're in an accident, you're really not protected the way that you should be. And again, when you're first starting out at 23, 24, sure, money's tight, but at 35, if you have the same auto insurance policy at 35 with 2 kids that you had at 25, single and living life, you need to get in and see your agent about changing your insurance to protect your assets and protect your family.
Agreed.
It protects you from that underinsured person. Bodily injury protects that other person if you hit them. So there's a lot of confusion out there as to what those coverages mean. So that's something else that we do, is really try to break it down and meet with people and say, okay, this is what this means. This is what you need it for and why. So
absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. So folks, it's all about peace of mind. And to close that circle and go back to something that if you've been on these regularly, you've heard me say, stress reduces our life. I heard a phrase yesterday I'd never heard, speaking to a colleague who is an older colleague and who's a very high-end estate planning attorney. And we were speaking about a client and talking about people that are self-motivated and high achievers. And he said this guy was such a high achiever that he stroked himself. I'd never heard that term before, but it's absolutely true. And the attorney's point, which was a great one, is that we lose a lot of talent to being overly stressed in our occupations and toward our goals. So my argument to folks is that every bit of stress you can take off of your plate so that you focus on what's really important and what you're best at is going to lengthen your life. And so I talk about that in terms of the asset protection and general estate planning, even having a simple will plan, means that you've done a beautiful thing for your heirs. Insurance is the same thing, guys. These are no-brainers. If you've got a boat or a motorcycle, you need insurance for it. We almost all have cars. Get a checkup. Make sure you have the right one. And for those of us that aren't 25 anymore and can't see it very well in the rearview mirror, an umbrella policy is really, really important. Um, I'm going to try to do better about talking to folks about flood insurance because I didn't know the 30-day, the tight window didn't apply at closing. So we'll try to get some information out there so that folks coming to closings with us know that that's an opportunity that will be lost if they don't act then. Kathleen, such a pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for inviting me to come and do this, John. I really appreciate it.
It's really great. And if you have friends that missed it and need it, it will be available on our video site. Kathleen will provide it to you too for anything you want to do with it at all. We are just so pleased that you guys were able to join us this morning. Next week's seminar is going to be a kind of interesting one. It's about some of the unexpected tax benefits that have occurred as a result of the COVID pandemic. Pretty dry tax stuff, admittedly, but in another way, fascinating. And for those of you that are small business owners, particularly, it will be a subject that you'll want to pay attention to. Call Carrie at Anderson. Let me get it right. Anderson Agency of Northeast Florida. Did I get it, Kathleen?
That's it. Yep.
All right. Give her a call and let her do that update. And if we hear from people that are underinsured or haven't had a look at it in years, we're going to send them your way, Kathleen. So thank you.
Okay, great, John. Thank you so much. We'll
Everybody,
do the same.
here comes the Commodores. Have a great week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.